Hey, welcome back once again to your favorite podcast at the edge of innovation. It's Disruptive AF with myself, Trigger Jordan, and my favorite co-host, Dan Holter. Dan, hello.
Hey, what's up, Trigger? How you been?
Dude, good. It's been a great week in the defense innovation environment. And, I'm so excited about not only this week because we're talking to the people who are literally making it happen. Jay Viscara, who is here with us, who's frankly, he's been one of the guys who has been not only working with Spark Cells, but also making things happen over at the 461st Air Control Wing. There now he's Spark Cell Chief right now at Robins Air Force Base in Georgia, and been involved with a ton of AFWERX projects to include COVID-19 national response stuff for the collaborative manufacturing efforts and 3D printing and all sorts of stuff. Jay, welcome, man. So glad to have you right here on Disruptive AF.
Hey Trigger, how's it going? Thanks for letting us join in and part of this Disruptive AF podcast. We're kind of excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So, man, so glad to have you because honestly, we talk a lot to different people who are in the defense innovation environment, but we can never talk enough to people who are literally doing the Lord's work, if you will, of innovation down at the wings, at the squadrons, the airmen, of literally making it happen and taking innovation to the business itself. So for yourself, behind every great man and great woman, there's a team of people to make it happen. I understand you got a picture for us to show your team members that make life happen for you.
Yeah, I do. So this is a picture of our team members, our family team members. So I'll put it on the screen there and let you guys take a look at it. So yeah, within the household, these are our two kind of bosses that run around the house. You've got Chesley and Owen, our two Pekingese lion dogs, if you will. And my wife does bring them around everywhere in little strollers and even to the store. So I just wanted to kind of introduce them for the podcast.
Dude, that's awesome,
fantastic. Yeah, and I think
awesome.
that, this just makes me think of how important it is to have a diverse team. And we shouldn't exclude other species from that, should we?
That's very true. That is very true. All dogs are welcome.
Dude, that's awesome, man. That's so cool. So cool. So not only do you find diverse ways to be able to bring people into organizations in your life and make things happen, but honestly, what you guys do there at the Spark Cell, really at the 461st Air Control Wing, man, that's huge. And that's one of the things that we can't overstate is just the actual integration of what happens between bringing innovation to the warfighter who are literally going out and doing the mission and deploying every single day. So just tell us a little bit about, if you don't mind opening up, kind of your experience as far as
let's just say it's been a long uphill battle, but a lot of the recent successes, really there's a lot of hard work and grit over the last year or two, and we kind of were pulled into the Spark Cell network through Tony Perez, and about a couple of years ago. We met at Travis Spark Summit over there, and then lo and behold, this explosion occurred. And what I say by explosion of ideals and resources and kind of networks. So over the last 2 years, we've done that. We've established kind of that ecosystem here locally, and kind of found the really interesting dynamics, I guess you could say, with the multiple organizations and airmen's ideals, and then kind of synchronizing that. Add a couple of other resources like local academia. So you have a lot of colleges, Georgia Tech, Mercer University, a lot of outlets over there to collaborate, and then you wrap that all up together, and then lo and behold, you do find some serendipity there. You find some collaborative, collective thoughts and then solutions for the Air Force. So with that said, we've got tons of projects here that we've been working on, from virtual reality to a lot of programming, DevOps, working with the colleges I just mentioned. And then just recently with COVID-19, oh man, I mean, that kind of exploded. So where everybody kind of worked and let's say slowed down work because of teleworking and they were home. No, we were at it. We were at it working with the local universities on testing different solutions, working with the Spark Cells across the world. So I say across the world because all the way to Kadena Air Force Base as well. And in Spark Cell, Shogun Spark, those folks out there, even in Aloha Spark and all the different Spark Cells collaborating on different COVID-19 solutions.
So I'm sort of curious about I'm a little bit curious about your experience as a SparkCell lead and what that looked like. Do you feel like you with the SparkCell you had like the infrastructure kind of built up and ready to respond to this situation, or do you feel like you had to spin up a whole lot and figure it out,
Uh,
last minute?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. So over the last 2 years, we've learned to rely kind of on the network and the ecosystem to, if there's common threads of solutions or problem sets, we ping the network, as I like to say, ping the network and see
Yeah.
what's out there, right? So you ping the network, and then you find some really great solutions out there, or you find some even more roadblocks that are out there, right? But just the simple fact of pinging the network and kind of talking across the board, that was kind of I wouldn't say it was easy, but really when COVID-19 occurred, it was that easy to pick up the phone or ping the network, and lo and behold, everybody was kind of working on the same solutions, 3D printed solutions and whatnot. So then the collaboration, I guess you could say, it leapfrogged to a certain level where we can have a solution faster than. But if we didn't have that ecosystem in the beginning, then I wouldn't say that it would be that easy.
I think that's a really important thing to foot stomp, that that some of the power of what's happened with the buildup of the Spark network is that you kind of created this system that was prepared almost to respond in this way,
Yes.
as opposed to what we had before, which likely it would have been, significantly more disjointed. People wouldn't have known where to turn for people who were already motivated to get after thorny problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, frankly, it probably would have been left to you prior to having Spark and Spark cells and the mindset of innovation that is homegrown and very grassroots. Going back to what Tony Perez Queso had mentioned when we were talking to him about Spark cell stuff, it's a mindset of response. It's a mindset of thinking differently. It's a mindset of being the problem solvers. And the fact of, Viz, I saw the same thing at our base when you're talking about pilot training and how do you do academic lessons with a class of 20 students for 40 students that are going through when you can't have the instructor in the room and you can't get together? Because we were positioned to think outside the box, and that, video teleconferencing, that was just stuff we've already been working on. When the wing commander and squadron commander, I imagine it's probably the same thing relatively for you, that when they came down and said, hey, we need a video teleworking capability right now, we were like, yeah, give us 24 hours and we'll have it set up. No problem. It wasn't something that was this massive muscle movement. It was like, oh yeah, let me call the people that, yeah, we know, to be able to make that happen. And it's this, because of the proactive work that has been done previously, when something happens that forces you to be a little bit reactive, you're able to react quickly and get a solution and get something happening and get moving in that direction.
Yes, that's true. And really, so building that network around you, and probably this is kind of a tip to all the Spark cells that are out there, because each base has its own dynamics and each base has its strengths and weaknesses. That landscape is different across the Air Force. So the quicker you kind of recognize that landscape and kind of find the belly button or the push mechanisms that you can get solutions done or collaborate, then you can pull that on demand, I guess you could say, when a crisis happens or things like that. So that's kind of a one kind of interesting story. So with COVID-19, we didn't have a way to test filtration with masks and whatnot, because we're kind of experimenting with different solutions for mask and barriers and whatnot. So we just turned to the local college nearby, and the local college, of course, has a huge medical institution over there, and they did the testing for us.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was one example of just turning next door, and then wow, lo and behold, you've got resources to a substantial level of testing right at your fingertips. So that's one example. And then one more thing I just want to bring too. So working COVID-19 solutions, it was easier to on-ramp additional solutions because you already had that network established. So working on 3D printed kind of solutions, we landed on a potential for, well, it's not a potential now because it's a success because we got it out there, but a large donation of hand sanitizer. So there was a large donation that was given by private industry and that we can benefit, the Air Force could benefit basically. So working with the same units in the COVID-19 Solution Network, we easily just ping that same network, and lo and behold, 10,000 gallons of that hand sanitizer got to 7 different bases within 3 weeks. So that is a strong, powerful network right there if you know how to utilize it. But like I said previous to that, you have to build that kind of network. You have to get out there. You got to get out of the office. You got to build that network with industry and the colleges near you. And that's kind of specific to what we've done here. But each base has its own kind of serendipity, if you will.
Yeah, and I really like that that we're kind of hitting on this. This is a subject that we've touched on a bit in the past, is the importance of not just a process, or or even just having innovators. The importance of creating an infrastructure that they can all use to be connected, and it sounds like to act as a bridge to those other entities that airmen themselves would be either they would probably hesitate to reach out to themselves, like just as individuals, right? I know that I, as a young enlisted airman, I would never have reached out to a local college to like find out if they could help me with a solution. So providing that bridging capability, it seems like a hugely important part of our innovation strategy in the Air Force now, and I'd love to see it continue to grow.
Yes, and there's a lot of mechanisms out there that are becoming more of a, I guess you can say, I wouldn't say a standard, but there are tool sets out there like educational partnership agreements that already exist with the local universities around you. They just haven't been utilized. They haven't been, they haven't. There's a lot of resources, a lot of folks out there, that kind of laid that groundwork, but the local airmen, they don't know about that. So that's part of the Spark Cell here. We identify those resources and connect those together, and then let them be free-minded. They've got the resources and the network, so let them kind of just grow from there.
Yeah. That's something that in working at the wing level and being able to see it, it's not until I started working at the wing level at an organization to see the connectivity that the wing commander had with the community and the importance of that, and realizing that as you grow in the innovation network, how critical that is, not just at the wing perspective, but at the squadron perspective, because there are organizations literally just outside the gate, less than several miles away, that may have the solution you're working for, and they want to be able to help you, but it's the avenue of getting plugged in and connected to them. One of the, I think a really good example that we've seen just recently, and we're starting to see more and more of it, is as you have contractors, depending on what they do at a base, because the military contracts several things out. As you have contractors, like some of the contractors who've been working with military bases, I mean, they've been working there a very long time. So finding people who are wanting to start working in that industry has been hard, because these guys have been working there 20 and 30 years with these military contracts of what they do. Well, by being able to voice, a base being able to voice, hey, we have this need that is coming up in this environment, the communities have been able to meet these needs and find people who are interested in those jobs on their own, because they have a vested interest in the base doing well. So, whether it's an educational partnership, whether or not it's a technical partnership of somebody locally who's able to provide stuff, building that network, man, Dan, we can't stress that enough. The importance of building a network, the importance of getting outside of the walls of what you do, getting outside the walls of your squadron, of your unit, of the wing, of the group, and not just internally to the wing or to the Numbered Air Force or to the MAJCOM, working with those partnerships, but finding the partnerships that are even outside of the bounds of the walls of the military. And that's the beauty of what AFWERX does. I mean, it's bringing those community partners. But I think people are starting to realize that more and more, that we as individuals in this Spark, in the innovation, in the defense innovation environment, we have a responsibility to pull those people in too. That we don't just need to stovepipe that. We need to be doing that and building those connections and building those networks ourselves. That's huge.
Yeah, such an important message. And to go from the mindset of just being innovators to being innovation enablers, I think you need that's such an important thing for all of us who have already broken into this space to recognize, is that there's still plenty of airmen out there, I think, who are, and it's part of the mission of this podcast, really, is just to make sure that we're getting the word out there that these things exist, that these communities exist. And that's why I think the communication piece is so essential. Just
Dude,
people need to know.
Yeah, there's a story I got to share with you real quick. It literally just happened this week that I was having a conversation with somebody. I'm not going to say what base or where it was from, but it was this mindset. Jay, it wasn't Visit wasn't you. Don't worry, I'm not about to throw you under the bus. But anyway, I was having this conversation with this person, and they were having some challenges with being able to get things pushed through and whatnot. And I said, well, why don't you just send an email to the leadership and say, hey, this is my plan. Let me know if you have any feedback. And the phone got quiet, and I said, hey, are you still there? They said, yeah, but I can do that. I said, yeah, of course you can. In fact, they would applaud it. If they got a random email from this person that's kind of connected to the project and said, hey, bosses, here's a problem that you've identified. Here's the solution. This is what I'm putting in works. Not needing you to do anything. I'm going to take care of it. Just wanted you to know. What boss wouldn't love that? I mean, they would love it. And it was this mindset when they said, I can do that. Well, yeah, dude, that's what innovation is just taking the bull by the horns and say, hey, you got a problem. I think I got a solution. I'm going to press forward with it. Let me know what you have. Let me know if you have any issues or problems with it. But if not, we're going to move forward with it. And honestly, man, Dan, we've said it before. It's unlocking airmen's hearts and minds. It's unlocking it, letting them know, dude, you are talented. You have an incredible perspective, and we want you to do that, and releasing them to do it. That's the name of the game. That's innovation in a nutshell.
So a couple of things on that, and it's funny that you brought up that story because realistically, we've just had 2 of those instances here. So yesterday, we're doing all this virtual reality review here. So we invite airmen to come down and review the virtual reality training system.
Mm-hmm.
And then they take a look at the hub and they see all the 3D printers and they see they see everything around there, and they're like, we have all this here. We can actually play with this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is actually all for you guys, and it's really just a matter of the exposure. It's hard to kind of expose and broadcast. We're on a podcast right now, and then there's multiple Facebook pages, and innovation this and innovation that. But to have the airmen actually in a hub to see the 3D printers of the virtual reality, like put the headset on and actually smell and feel it, then boom, they're connected. Boom, they want in right away.
Yeah.
So during COVID, we established a gaming kind of competition with the local colleges. So we set up a e-sport, if you will, type of a forum and group, and airmen had no idea about it, but we just put a message out there, hey, calling all gamers, and lo and behold, all the airmen came out of the woodworks. And then that was one hook, and then you invite them over to the hub, and then they realize, wow, we can do a lot. And then you add kind of rapid acquisitions and agile kind of contracting to that, and you can get more. So letting them understand that there are pathways and resources to get what they think will make a better Air Force. They just don't know it. So that's always been an uphill battle, I guess, in an innovation network, right? Is kind of advocating, exposing that to the airmen, to the down to the tactical level airmen.
Yeah, and I think there's something really important you hit on there, is that as large organizations, we're always trying to find an efficient and effective way of doing things. But sometimes there is no substitute for a conversation. There is no substitute for just getting face to face and a phone call and saying, hey, come down here. I want to show you this. Like, let's sit down and have this conversation. And I know that, and Jordan, not to chime in or dime you out, but this is one of the challenges the PA has said, is that there's a lot of avenues to get out information, but how do you actually get somebody not just to see it, but to engage with it and to connect with it? And that challenge that public affairs is having in the innovation space is that sometimes there is no substitute other than, hey, come down. We're going to have pizza, and we'd love to get your input on what this is. And sometimes, and honestly, this has happened time and time again, Dan, I'm sure it's been the same thing for you. Sometimes I've invited people down knowing and expecting that they were going to come down and hate everything that is innovation. But you know what? At least the conversation has started. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't invite them down with the intentionality of understanding they were probably going to hate everything that we were doing, at least we're having a conversation, and at least we can get started. And at least we can understand where they're coming from and what their pain points are. And what they don't quickly realize is they may come down being haters, but they leave believers, because they understand the point of innovation is to help you identify the problems you have and to get a solution. And to get a solution. It's not, innovation isn't something we're thrusting upon you and forcing you to do. It's something that we have the opportunity to do to help each and every one of us and do that. And I know we have so many stories. When we come back, we're going to go to break real quick right here on Disruptive AF. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about not only those challenges, those stories that we've had, but also how has that had a huge impact across not only the Air Force, but the DoD as a whole, as we kind of discussed that COVID-19. Because the response not only was Air Force, but it went DoD wide and national. We'll be talking about that here in a second, right here on Disruptive AF, your edge of innovation.
Are you listening to this podcast and wondering what you should do to get started? Join AFWERK's weekly office hours call to hear about different resources and programs available to you and the rest of the defense innovation community. Tune in at the link in the show notes every Monday at 1 p.m. Central to hear more.
Hey, welcome back to Disruptive AF, the Edge of Innovation, your favorite podcast about Air Force and defense innovation. Here with my good friend Trigger Jordan, and we're talking to Jay Vizcara, who's the 461st Air Control Wing Innovations and Spark Chief at Robins Air Force Base. And really quick, before the break, we talked a lot about making sure the airmen were aware of these capabilities, of these avenues that they could get into, these communities that they can connect to. And one thing that I kind of forgot to bring up, which, you know, is just coming into my head right now, is this idea that we should be inviting people in these spaces, but also as innovation enablers, sometimes we got to get outside the building and go to where the airmen are, because that's kind of a piece I see missing sometimes, is going, you know, I feel like sometimes we can get locked up or holed up in our spaces where we feel super innovative and we've got all the fancy toys and stuff, and we forget that there are airmen down there on the ground doing the work, who are just maybe they don't even respond to an invitation. But as you expressed before the break, this COVID-19 response has been an opportunity to get, I think, even more people involved. I'd just love to hear a little bit more about how your team has responded specifically in the face of this COVID-19 situation, and what that means for Air Force innovation going forward, maybe.
Yeah, sure. On the 3D printing kind of area, believe it or not, airmen came to the hub and asked, "Hey, can we 3D print certain solutions for COVID-19?" And that's really what transpired and how we got into this. One of the specific airmen that came up with a 3D print kind of mask and then face shield design asked, "Hey, is it possible that we can 3D print these and mass produce these and give them to our medical group and whatnot?" And I said, "Why not? Why can't we?" So basically, we did all the let's say fast running on that, and then kind of connected that airman specifically with other folks that were designing in 3D printing, and then the local colleges I mentioned before for testing different designs. And yeah, we really just let the airmen like run with it, and then it just exploded into additional 3D printers, other airmen that are interested in 3D printing, and they came out of the woodworks as well. So really, it kind of fueled its own self through this one airman that just came to the hub and said, "Hey, can we provide solutions for this?"
Yeah, that's very cool. One of the things that I've been saying about COVID-19 is that it about a crisis is that it doesn't really make us innovative. It just makes our problems more obvious. And I think that kind of empowered people to learn, like, to feel like they had a role, like they saw these problems very clearly in front of us. Do you want to talk a little bit about what some of the other wins that you've seen out of your Spark Cell?
One additional kind of extension to that previous story about that airman, there was a distinct kind of obstacle as far as helping the public and helping medical facilities outside the gate, because being that there was a distinct separation of well, can we provide solutions for the community and across the fence, without diving into that, basically we're not allowed to, pending, certain authorizations to do certain things like that. So with that said, the airmen actually got together with a local fab lab that does 3D printing and simply shared the designs with that local fab lab. And that local fab lab set up a task force in the community that had an open call to all folks in the community. Hey, if you have a 3D printer or you'd like to donate to this task force, and lo and behold, boom, 10,000 to 13,000 PPE type of solutions went to this task force location here in the community, and they gave those items directly to the hospitals nearby. So man, wow. That was a really big win and really big story, and it was actually circulated through a lot of articles here. So there are ways. I mean, that's a perfect example of hey, how can we help the local community? Well, we couldn't help them directly with government funding. Well, you work and collaborate with local fab labs, and then set up a task force in the community. Of course, he donated his 3D print solutions as well from out of his garage. But lo and behold, there was a solution there. In addition to that, another airman was working on a 3D printed solution for hands-free adapters. So basically, instead of utilizing your hands to open up doors in hospitals, basically 3D print an adapter that you use your arm to open the door. So with the help of, let's say, emerging kind of programs within DoD to fund kind of local businesses to provide mass-produce these solutions, we're actually getting funding as we speak for one of his solutions to be mass-produced, and those solutions are going to military bases overseas like Lakenheath, Mildenhall, and a lot of other bases here locally. So that was a very successful thing that came out of COVID is all these kind of DoD programs and whatnot with funding and pulling in industry and small business into the mix.
Yeah. As you talk about that task force that you were mentioning, I think it's a great segue to talk kind of about not only what the SparkCell was doing with the overall Joint Acquisition Task Force that was focusing specifically on COVID. We're going to have an interview later with some of the principal players of that in another interview. But one of the things that's really important with the connectivity, what the SparkCells were doing was, as you were talking about that happening at a local level, that was actually happening, no kidding, at a national level. That started off with AFWERX just saying, "Hey, we've got to do something about it." AFWERX and a couple of partner organizations saying, "We got to do something about this. Like, we can't sit back. What could we do?" And then launching into really being the industry portal for assessing and assimilating some of those commercial technologies, capabilities, 3D printing, and giving a gateway for companies to be able to say, yeah, we have something that could help with this fight against COVID. In fact, it went so well that it went from being an Air Force thing to being a joint thing, and then DoD-wide across all the Department of Defense, where everybody was assessing these requests for information from industry, saying, hey, industry was saying, we have something that can help in this area. There was, several different areas and focuses that we had, but man, SparkCells played a huge part of that, because all in all, when you have thousands of RFIs coming from industry saying, hey, we have a technology, we have 3D printing, we have manufacturing capability, we have resources that can help to be able to create PPE or personal protective equipment. I can say it, tricking over myself. Personal protective equipment. Say that 3 times fast. But we have resources that can help. That was huge. And it was such a flex in such a short amount of time that, like I said, it went on to impact not only the Air Force, not only our joint partners, but also Department of Defense and federal government altogether. And that's that connectivity that SparkCells had into it, as well, of being able to sort through some of these RFIs and say, hey, this is a really good idea. Like, these companies have something that could definitely help, and it could help right now. And then we saw several great programs come out of that stand-up, one of them being AFRAMP, which we'll talk about later in another episode, the Air Force Rapid Agile Manufacturing Platform called AFRAMP, to be able to get these processes, these technologies, these capabilities stood up in short order. And it's amazing that you see what's happening at a grassroots level, at an organization, at a wing, at a squadron, in a community, is able to happen at a national scale because of the precedent that is set at a small level. I mean, it's just wild. Rewind the clock 5 years ago. Could this have happened? I would say no.
No. Yeah, no, I think you're right
It couldn't
about
have
that. I think that what we've done over the last several years within the Air Force innovation ecosystem is we've built up, like we were talking about earlier, we've built up that framework, that the basic operating system for that connectedness that we need.
That's a great way to put it.
That actually makes me, it brings me to something that we usually hit on at the beginning, which is, in addition to this being a systemic thing, right? We create the operating system. It's also an individual and personal thing. Jay,
Yeah.
I'm sort of curious if you want to touch on what your personal journey into the innovation space has been, your experience of, the Air Force before being a part of this, and your movement into this space, to kind of talk about, maybe as the reason that we share these personal stories is because we want people to be able to relate to how they could maybe get involved, or maybe relate to your experience with Air Force innovation before. So if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, it all started, with that one kind of event at Travis, to kind of see what was available out there. But prior to that, I've always kind of been involved in, I guess you could say, testing in the Air Force. So I mentioned previously that I was a test lead of I'll mention it now that previously I was a test lead of a U.S. Global Hawk program. So I was involved in kind of the testing and acquisitions world, right? And saw that whole JSIDS process, and archaic kind of acquisitions that we all love, I guess you could say. and was really frustrated with a lot of capabilities and not bringing those things online faster, right? Just because of 2-year, 1-year type of acquisition process, right? So learning that the hard way, or it's a good lesson, because we all go through lessons in our career, and then slowly but surely you run into more obstacles in your career, and then you realize that, hey, there are other networks and other ways to get this done, maybe against the grain, and kind of pertinent to this disruptive AF and this podcast, but definitely needed and warranted. So then you slowly started to feel like, well, I think I'm more of that group now. I've seen this whole kind of process and frustrated with it, and slowly but surely there's like, well, I think I want to be on this side, and then after a small win here, or another win there, or inspiring other airmen, you slowly realize that, hey, this thing is actually real. This thing, as far as being innovative or thinking of better solutions, and finding the resources and utilizing those resources properly, and aligning folks together, or collaborating in general, that this could actually be very powerful, and kind of blessed over the last couple of years, and a lot of great leadership that we had across the Air Force to allow this to happen, and continue to happen, kind of fell into that lane. And then, then I realized that, hey, we are in a better place now. And all those frustrations that I had 2 years ago in the test community, we're in a better place. So it just kept on fueling itself along the way. But I guess my segue into it was seeing that archaic kind of acquisitions world, and seeing, hey, there is a avenue for this. And then I just follow that stream. And that's pretty much it.
I think there's something interesting that you said there, which is, hey, I think I'm one of those people. And that is something that I very much relate to. And it's one reason that I like one of my primary avenues for trying to promote innovation is through storytelling. And one of the reasons for that is that I want people to be able to affiliate themselves, their identity, with what I'm talking about, as opposed to just, this is entirely about processes, right? It's not entirely about the operating systems. It's not entirely about, creating systems where we can efficiently pursue innovation. It's also about, it's actually maybe even more, it's about people and feeling like they can identify, they can personally feel like they are a part of this movement. And that's something that I've heard said in a number of different ways, hey, I think I'm one of them. Like, hey, those people over there, they're way more like me than this whole structured, systemic, sterile process, like systems thinking, very, engineered system over here, which is the old way of doing, it's Taylorist management, right? It's the old way of imagining how we extract value out of human beings, and it's more personal. So I just want to hit on that hey, I think I'm one of those people. It's something that we should all be striving to instill in those people who might feel like they're trapped inside a system that doesn't allow them to be who they actually are.
If I can add something to that, and kind of looking back, over the last couple of years, really what it comes down to, and I found this more of the formula, and looking back now is one, IDing kind of your passions, so what you're passionate about, whether it's a life or career or even technology, whatever that passion is, right?
Oh boy, getting trigger started on passion. Here we go. Every podcast.
Every time.
Observe your landscape, right? So you kind of have to know your landscape and the dynamics and everything that you're dealing with around you, right? And then just simply see where you fit in that landscape and how you can kind of co-evolve, how you can evolve both, as far as your passions go and your community or, your work environment around you, and then surprisingly, after you do research and get out there, like definitely get out there and, see the pain points around you, you will find really kind of those, I guess you could say, golden push buttons that start a chain of events that, lo and behold, you found the next solution, or that benefits both your environment and you and your passion, and trigger whatever your passions are.
Yeah. No, it's, man, you said it beautifully. Both of you said it beautifully, that it really goes from a mindset and a perspective of, instead of saying, what does the system tell me I should value, going from that to saying, what value do I bring to the system? What comes natural to me? Those are completely different mindsets. And I think for a long time, I mean, if you think about generationally, I remember being told when I was younger, if you help the company will help you. Well, it's nothing against business and nothing against systems, but times have changed. The reality is that the way that business is done is different now. And kind of gone are the days such that, hey, if you just stick with a party line for the rest of your life, you'll be fine. It's not necessarily the way that is. Instead, it's a way of saying, what value do I bring to the system? Because I'm different and I have different perspective and different way of doing things. And I do have passions. And when we connect people, here it is, that statement. When we connect people to their passion, they live a fulfilled life. And when you have people who are fulfilled, they achieve things so much faster, more efficient, more effective than they ever would have in the first place. Okay, there's my passion moment. I just got to say, every chance I can say it, I got to say it.
That's very like trigger.
Yeah, no doubt. Dude, Jay, it's been so great, Viz, having you with us here on the Disruptive AF podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, you've hit on something really huge of being able to connect people to the Innovation Network, and that's the biggest thing. Get plugged into the network. If you don't know anything about all this innovation stuff we're talking about, do yourself a favor. Go to AFWorks, the AFWorks website, which you can find in the comments section wherever you're listening. If you're on YouTube, just go to the comments section below. Get connected to us, get connected to the network, get connected to Spark Innovation of wherever an Innovation Hub is. And if you don't have it, then start it. Because innovation begins with somebody bold enough saying, you know what, we should get started here. For sure. So Dan, it's been great. Jay, thanks so much for being with us right here on Disruptive AF. Make sure you subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the bell right next to the subscribe button so you'll get all the notifications of when great content just like this rolls out each and every week. So we'll see you next time. Dan, we'll see you on the next time we get together.
See you, Trigger.
See you guys right here. Thanks again for joining us on Disruptive AF, your edge of innovation.